welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. I'm aware it's a non-working day both in the UK and in the US, but I wanted to get this weekly update out anyway, and you can watch it on Tuesday. That's fine. This is the one after build, and obviously I'm sure we've all watched through all the session content. Of course we haven't. This is the problem with conferences at the moment, isn't it? Like we're in this kind of post-COVID world of so much being virtual, but we still haven't quite figured out how to consume session content remotely. Anyway, I've watched what I can, and there is a blog post I'm writing that I haven't quite finished. I thought I might get done in time for when I'm recording this, but I haven't, I'm afraid, around actually kind of what developers need to know around what's different, new, coming, changed, out now, out soon, around Copilot development, Microsoft 365. That blog post is still being written because it's quite complicated, but some of the links from today are from my research into that. So we'll touch on it a little bit. But first, a while ago, we talked a little bit about Teams Live Events APIs and the retirement of Teams Live Events and the retirement of those APIs. At the time, we were told that new APIs to support Town Hall were coming, but they weren't there yet. They are now available in beta. So Teams Live Events is going to disappear towards the end of the year. I think maybe November time. I want to say October, November time. I'd check that if I were you. And so we've got a time now where the new APIs are available in beta. So there's a blog post from the Microsoft 365 platform team, which is this one here. And this is good. Like, this is what they said was coming. It's coming in good time. This is long enough for it to be in beta, for them to get the feedback and to push it into GA. It's long enough for organizations everywhere that use the current live events APIs to move over. So I think this is good. I haven't done a full comparison of all the methods in all the resources to work out whether there's any gaps between what you can currently do with Team Live Events. But you know, this looks like quite a good comprehensive kind of list of methods. There's nothing, you know, that stands out to me there. But again, I'm not a heavy user of the Live Events API. So this is good. They want your feedback. This is in beta. There's information at the bottom on how to get hold of them. But this is good. I think it's good to see. They said it was coming, and here it is. So that's a good thing, and I think we should celebrate it because, it's another reminder that actually Microsoft is bigger than Copilot. And although the Copilot stuff is cool and is very important to the company, and we get that, there's a lot of other work that needs doing, and it's good to see that, you know, that work is still happening and being pushed forward. So that is all good. All right, let's talk a little bit about Build 2024, which was the one with the Copilot. And yeah, lots of announcements across the board. The first one, actually, before I go into Copilot, I want to talk about Azure Communication Services and what they've been doing, because they had a bunch of announcements to announce at Build. And they've got a blog post as well from the Azure Communication Services blog, all about that. So let's talk about that. Couple of things in here that are new, some that we already had heard about, like the noise suppression. I don't beat them up too much about kind of recovering the same thing again. Quite often Build is a way for people to catch up with all the stuff that's been happening in the past, you know, since the last conference. And those of us who kind of pore over every blog post and catch every news item as it comes will quite often see repetitions at these big, like, flagship events. And I think that's okay. So we've got noise suppression to record, which we heard around. PowerPoint Live, I think we've heard about. Live reactions, I hadn't heard about. So there's new APIs for live reactions, so that's cool. Look forward to seeing that being built into ACS clients soon. So I think that's nice. I like that. File sharing during a meeting, I think I'd heard of before. I don't think I'd heard of real-time transcription, but again, not spending 100% of my time in this space. Real-time transcription using Azure AI Speech, that's nice, being able to receive text in real time from an ongoing call. If that's built into Azure Communication Services so you don't have to build it yourself, that's really cool. That's really nice. Loads and loads of applications for that being really useful, especially around the AI stuff. You could see how you could really lean into some of the AI capabilities there in having access to the text of what's being said. So that's really, really nice. And there's a couple of other things as well, but Nice of the Azure Communications teams to put together a blog post detailing all the stuff that's new at Build, because it is quite easy to miss some stuff sometimes in the in everything that's happening. Okay, so the blog post I've picked out to talk about Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365 and all the announcements that came out of Build. The one I've chosen is from the Microsoft Docs, so from learn.microsoft.com, and it's titled Extensibility Options for Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. And it's kind of like a chooser for like, here's all the ways you could develop with Microsoft Copilot. What do you want to do? So I found this quite useful. I think it's a good document. The other thing it's quite good for doing is keeping on top of what is in public preview, what is in private preview, what is GA, what's not, and all that sort of stuff. So this is useful. So we start off with this nice, let's, right at the top, what are we doing? And so we're talking about Copilot with building things into Microsoft Copilot experience, or do you want to build your own Copilot? So those are two very separate things. You can use tooling for both of them. And one of the things that my blog post is going to try and help with is some of these are existing technologies that have undergone name changes, and some are new technologies, and some are a mixture. And it's quite confusing at the moment. It's actually more confusing if you've been in this space for a while, because now you're not quite sure what's new and what isn't. If you're coming to this brand new, it's probably relatively straightforward. But so I think this is a good place to start with, like, what are we doing? And then pro code or low code is another choice you have to make. And then there's a whole other table. This obviously wouldn't fit into a nice diagram for all the different things you could do. And so, like, you can see quite a few of these are still in private preview. And that's one of the things I really wanted to cover in my blog post when it arrives finally, is some of the announcements that got made at Build are not things that you can go and do today, which is always slightly annoying, but I get why it happens. But like, it's important to call those things out, I think. And so, so let's do that. That's the blog post I'm writing at the moment. So hopefully this time next week, I'll be able to tell you that I've done it, because I want to sort of bring clarity as much for everyone else, for me. Like, actually writing it all down in one place is quite useful for me, because then when I have to explain it to people, I've got one reference point. So that's what I plan to do. Mostly on the pro code side of things. I'm going to look into the low code side of things and just try and summarize it. But that's another area where I'm not probably going to, unless I can find the documentation that makes it clear, I'm not going to be able to do a great job of working out what's new versus what's like rebadged. That's an Alan Partridge reference in there somewhere. Anyway, so those are the things around Copilot for Microsoft 365 that came out of Build that I'm going to be writing up. But that is the blog post I wanted you to look at. If you want to look at something today, that's a good one to start with, just for understanding what this new landscape looks like. Finally, the last thing I want to leave you with is something that came out one of the build sessions I was watching, and it's some really cool adaptive card samples for Microsoft Teams. Now, the Microsoft Teams adaptive card experience really annoys me, because it's like a partial implementation of the adaptive card schema, and it's not very well documented about what's supported and what isn't, which schema. Even within the schema, not all the parts of the schema are fully supported. So it's really frustrating to write things for, because you just have to try and see and see if it works. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. However, this is a good repository of samples that I've not seen before, around some Teams adaptive card samples. And this picture is lovely. If you can do all these things in Teams, I'm quite surprised. But it's a lovely little picture of some ideas. So this is good for people writing adaptive cards who either don't know what they want and want some ideas, or do know what they want and want to just understand how, the best way to build that is. So a bunch of samples in there. It was in passing in a session. I heard it mentioned. I looked it up. I thought it was cool. All right, enough from me. I'm going to stop talking and try and get in under 10 minutes. Have a great rest of week, whatever it is you're doing. Short week this week, and I'll speak to you again next time.